In Argentina, press workers are on alert after President-elect Javier Milei's announcement that he will privatize in private media. In Palestine, the Israeli regime continues its attacks on civilians from structures and a threat against Nuseirat refugee camp killed at least 20 Palestinians. In South Africa, the Parliament of South Africa voted to break off relations with Tel Aviv and close the Israeli embassy in the city of Pretoria. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Razabal from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The press conference, the press workers in Argentina are on alert after President-elect Javier Milei announced that he will privatize the public media. The decision would affect some 4,000 reporters, photographers, camera designers, editors, and administrative staff. According to the estimates, such a measure would impact Radio Nacional, which was founded in 1937, the national news agency TELAM, founded in 1945, and Televisión Pública in 1951, which are all headquartered in Buenos Aires but all have offices all over the country. In response to Milei's warning, the Argentine Federation of Press Workers and the Press Union of Buenos Aires have already started to organize assemblies in the affected media under the slogan, "Without public media, there is no democracy." Argentina's market reacted with optimism on Tuesday to the resounding election victory of Libertarian Javier Milei. The market rose 20% when it opened on Tuesday, showing its first reaction to Javier Milei's resounding win. The rise was led by the state-owned company YPF, whose shares rose to 34% after the president-elect announced he would privatize is all part of the package of reform. Milei, a 53-year-old economist and cited trounced Argentina's long-dominant Peronist coalition as voters punished the government for decades of economic decline with annual inflation of 143%. Milei was vowed to ditch the Argentinian peso for the US dollar and shut down the central bank, which he accused of rampant money printing to finance government overspending. In Colombia, a delegation from 25 countries participated in the 14th conference of the trade union, International Public Service, and allied workers. With the attendance of more than 150 international experts, the event began in the city of Bogotá this Tuesday and will last until November 23rd. During these days, the specialists will propose solutions to the social, economic, and political problems faced by the public utility sector in the country. In addition, the participants will address issues related to tariff, coverage for the most remote regions, labor conditions, and new technologies.
The reshaping of geopolitics. We were struggling for peace, to work crowdly for social justice, to seek solutions to the climate crisis, to work clearly for the fundamental rights of workers, and of course, for the population in a situation of migration, are fundamental tasks that we, as workers, must embrace, not only in terms of solidarity, but also in terms of unity.
Archaeologists have found 5 Inca mummies in the hill in Lima neighborhood surrounded by houses and next to the training field of one of Peru's top professional soccer teams. The remains covered with plant-based vines belong to 4 minors and an adult, Luis Tacuda, who has the Huacala Florida research project, said on Monday that the mummies are about 1,000 years old. Archaeologists believe the findings belong to the pre-Inca culture called Ishma, which expanded through the valleys of what is now Lima until it was incorporated into the Inca Empire in the late 15th century, scholars say. The cause of death of the 5 recently found mummies has not been determined. Taguda said that these mummies were surrounded by pieces of light-thread pottery with characteristics of the Ishma culture. Lima has more than 400 larger archaeological sites that have been scattered throughout the urban landscape, known as huacas in the indigenous Quechua language. Those constructions are on top of the hills, considered sacred places.
What we found here were some 5 complete funerary contests. That is why we are talking about the funerary bundle itself, which wrapped the dead. This is the funerary trousseau, which included ceramics. We have found complete ceramic pieces. We have also found that we are able to recover textile material associated with the funerary.
Let's take a short break. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you find news in different formats, new dates, and more. Our study is coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. In central Gaza, an Israel airstrike hit Nuseirat refugee camp on Tuesday, killing at least 20 Palestinians whose bodies were recovered from the rubble and transferred to the nearby Al-Qassam hospital. Relatives held brief funeral prayers over the shrouded bodies in the hospital compound, the latest mass funeral to death toll from Israel offensive surges. At the site of the attack, dozens of people were reported missing by relatives who tried to search for their dead bodies still trapped under the rubble. Victims' feet could be seen protruding from the cinder block ruins. The airstrike came in Israel and intensified its ground operation in north and heavy bombardments across the Gaza Strip. Hamas could release dozens of footages from war-torn Gaza after the militant group's leaders and key mediator Qatar saying the truce was in sight. The announcement is the most optimistic yet as a potential breakthrough in the conflict, which has been raging for more than 6 weeks and has left thousands dead on both sides.
I believe that we are at a decisive moment in this matter, and we all hope that there will be a temporary truce, according to which the hostilities will be halted for a few days. Relief entry to our people will be intensified, and civilians, women and children will be exchanged for women and children from the occupation prisons. We believe that what is on the table today and what we have responded with can open a clear path to reach this truce if the occupation wants it.
Egypt's Prime Minister Mustafa Mabouli said his government would use all available measures to protect its border from Palestinian refugees. This statement was made during a parliament session today as a result of the North African country's fears that a mass exodus of Palestinians onto Egyptian soil will nullify Palestinian demands for statehood and will jeopardize Egypt's security and economy. Since the start of the conflict, Egypt has continually ruled out becoming a host nation for displaced Palestinians. However, thousands of dual nationals, along with hundreds of injured and civil Palestinians, have crossed from Gaza into Egypt during the past weeks.
Egypt absolutely and totally rejects the displacement of Palestinians from the Gaza Strip to Egyptian land and rejects all Israeli procedures to force Palestinians to do this and consider this matter a threat to the Egyptian soil and sovereignty. Therefore, Egypt will not hesitate in taking all measures that guarantee the protection of its borders. And Egypt, in case the occurrence of any scenario that targets the fleeing of Palestinians to Egyptian land, will have a firm response in accordance with international law. Egypt has a clear stance in respecting the Egyptian-Israeli peace treaty and is committing to its terms, but we are expecting the same stance in return from Israel, especially regarding the current measures in the Gaza Strip and what it can form as an indirect threat to the Egyptian state.
Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva says Hamas' barbaric acts do not justify the use of indiscriminate and disproportionate force against civilians as it takes part in extraordinary BRICS summits on Gaza.
Brazil strongly condemned Hamas terrorist attacks on October the 7th against the Israeli people. 3 Brazilians were victims of these attacks. On several occasions, we reiterated the call for the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. However, such barbaric attacks do not justify the use of indiscriminate and disproportionate force against civilians. We are facing a humanitarian catastrophe. The innocent pay the price for the insanity of war, especially women, children, and the elderly.
The United Nations said Tuesday that it is putting together a plan to distribute aid in Gaza when a ceasefire is reached.
What we are doing is trying to make sure that we are ready. So if there is any pause in fighting, which is what we've been asking for, we would be able to deliver humanitarian aid more effectively. So we're putting in place arrangements, including through discussions with the needed authorities. So we are working with the parties, ultimately to make sure that we can get aid as soon as there is any cessation of hostilities on the ground.
On Monday, the United Nations Under-Secretary General for Peace Operations, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, held a press conference emphasizing that UN peacekeepers are not a magic wand, referring to international criticism about the management of his organization in the current conflict in the Gaza Strip.
Don't forget that in spite of all these challenges, again, hundreds of thousands of civilians are protected every single day by our peacekeepers. Ceasefires are being protected. If you don't have these operations on the ground, what would happen? Would the situation be any better? In most cases, it would probably be much worse. It doesn't mean that peacekeeping operations are the magic wand or the universal response to every kind of crisis.
On the other hand, Jean-Pierre Lacroix pointed out that these peacekeeping operations are largely focused on the protection of civilians, but admitted that the United Nations face budget problems and logistical constraints which increase the frustration of many sectors of the population.
I think in some of the peacekeeping operations, our mandate, which are largely focused on protection of civilians, raise expectation that we cannot meet because of the capacities that we have, because of the budget that we have, because of the terrain, the logistical constraint. And when that happens, then we experience frustration from some sectors.
The Parliament of South Africa voted to break off relations with Tel Aviv and close the Israeli embassy in the city of Pretoria. After debating the motion, the South African legislature proceeded to vote and with 248 votes in favor, 91 against the closure of the Israeli embassy. Experts warned that the decision increases tensions between the two nations after Israel carried out an examination in the Gaza Strip. Following this resolution, the South African government will have to decide whether to implement the motion passed in Parliament. The decision comes after the President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, criticized Tel Aviv for violating international law and committing war crimes against Palestine. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit the channel teleSUR English, where you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, sub-stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to set up to date on the world's more recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. At least 37 people were killed last night in Nuseirat Stadium, the capital of the Republic of Congo, Brazzaville, where thousands of young people came to ask for a job in the country's army. The Congolese Ministry of Communications in statement said that during the night of Monday 20 to Tuesday 21, November 2023, a tragedy occurred at the Machal Ornan Stadium, resulting in death and injuries. Also added to that provisional toll established by the emergency services, 37 dead and several are wounded. The country's government is expected to make a further statement on the incident in the coming hours.
It was just the crowd that rushed in front of the gates, and there were so many people that we couldn't all get in. And then some people fell, and then others started stepping on them, and that's what caused the accident. The whole crowd behind me fell on top of me, and then I don't know what happened. I found myself in an ambulance.
On Tuesday, Thailand's cabinet approved an amendment to the country's civil code to allow same-sex marriage, with the draft expected to be submitted to Parliament next month. Deputy Government spokesman Caro Portland said the amendments to the Civil and Commercial Codes will change the words man and woman and husband and wife to individuals and marriage partners for same-sex couple, and a husband and wife to individuals and spouses so that the same-sex couples can receive the same rights as heterosexual couples. He said the law would guarantee the right to form a family in a relationship between same-sex couples, adding that the next step will be to amend the pension fund and act to recognize same-sex couples as well. Prime Minister Fresha Travisin has told reporters that the bill is expected to be submitted to the Parliament on December 12th. If it becomes law after parliamentary approval, and Kinmaha Bajikarangkorn, as in Thailand, will become the third place in Asia to allow same-sex marriage after Taiwan and Nepal. In Russia, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, at a meeting with senior military commanders, stated that Ukrainian efforts to cross the Dnieper River have failed.
While continuing successful active defense, the Russian groups of forces are steadily holding positions along the entire line of contact and are gradually improving their positions. The enemy is under constant fire, which prevents it from advancing. All attempts by Ukrainian armed forces to conduct a landing operation in the Kherson sector have failed, thanks to the proactive and professional actions of our military personnel. Part of the Marine Corps and Special Operations Forces of the Ukrainian troops have suffered colossal casualties. Overall, since the beginning of the month, the enemy has lost over 13,700 people and about 1,800 units of various weapons and military equipment.
The Russian government reiterated its denunciation of the West's attempts to maintain foreign interference in Ukraine on the 10th anniversary of the Euromaidan coup d'etat. The Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov recalled the events of the unrest in 2014 when groups of extremists financed from abroad carried out coup actions against the then president of Ukraine, Yugoslav. The Kremlin both categorized Euromaidan as those violent acts that led Ukraine to the loss of state autonomy, and now it is maintained by Western colonizers who determine its domestic and foreign policy. Russian President Vladimir Putin met his Tajikistan counterpart Emomali Rahmon in Moscow on Tuesday. The two leaders discussed bilateral cooperation and other international matters, including security. In a joint statement following the talks, the Russian president said that Moscow plans to actively use the capability of his military base in Tajikistan to maintain peace and stability in the Central Asian region. On the other hand, Rahmon thanks Russian law enforcement and intelligence for close cooperation with their Tajik colleagues in the field of fighting cross-border organized crime. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov hosted his counterpart from the Arab League and the Organization for Islamic Cooperation Tuesday to discuss Israel-Hamas war. Officials from 8 Muslim countries and territories are visiting the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council and other nations in an attempt to secure an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and ensure the delivery of humanitarian aid. Speaking at the start of the talks in Moscow, Lavrov said Russia condemned all forms of terrorism, but added that terrorism must be fought with methods that do not amount to collective punishment and do not contradict, or to put it bluntly, really violate norms of international humanitarian law. The group consisting of representatives from Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Indonesia, Nigeria, Qatar, Jordan, and the Palestinian territories has already visited China and will travel to London and Paris on Wednesday.
I'd like to confirm once again that we condemn terrorism in all its manifestations, without any exception, but terrorism must be fought with methods that do not amount to collective punishment and do not contradict, or to put it bluntly, rudely violate the norms of international humanitarian law.
And we have come to the end of this news brief, but before saying goodbye, we want to thank our Caribbean audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share our newscast and contribute to provide an alternative news source of the latest world events. You can find these seminar studies on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Ana Rosabal. Thank you for watching.